Nope. Hi, my name is Dr. Jordan Glenn, and today we're going to show you how to calibrate the metabolic cart we have here in the Applied Phys Lab at Louisiana Tech University. The first thing we need to keep in mind is that the equipment takes about 30 minutes to warm up before we can actually start the calibration process. So if we focus in on here, this is our CosMed unit. You see our start button here in the front. You see the green light is on. We came and turned it on early. It's been about 30 minutes now since we turned on the unit, so we avoid the waiting process, but make sure that if you're going to come in and test, either working with a class or with research subjects, that you provide yourself enough time to not only turn on the unit, but make sure that you have time to calibrate as well. After we've turned on our unit and it's warmed up for 30 minutes, we can turn on our gas. We see right over here, we have our tool, which is sitting right on our gas tank. We see two nozzles. We see a little silver one right here, and we see the black one right here. The first thing we do is we turn on this nozzle. We just take our wrench and we turn a quarter turn counterclockwise, just like that. Then we turn this knob again a quarter turn counterclockwise, and if we listen, we hear a click. So once these two are on, this knob and then this knob, we take our tool, we put it right back on our tank so we don't lose it, we know where it is later, and then we have to turn our gas on. Then we can focus on the computer. The icon we're opening up is the Quark PFT Ergo. This is the same icon we use to calibrate and to do the metabolic testing. We double click to open it up. And then the first thing we need to do is go to Test and then Calibration. We click Calibration and a new screen will pop up. We then go to Calibration, Gas, and Air. We click that and we're going to see a little screen pop up. Number one, it's going to say disconnect the sampling line from the flow meter. So what we need to do, we need to find the flow meter. If we zoom in close, we see that there's two cords attached to it. One gray and then one has the black piece on it that kind of leads into this clear tube. This clear tube is the sampling line. So when it says disconnect the sampling line from the flow meter, we're going to pull that out, and then we are going to connect it into the front of the CosMed unit. And we see the nice opening right there in the front. It sticks right in. Do not try and disconnect the gray tube from the flow meter. It will not come out. If we do, that breaks the unit. So make sure our flow meter is set nice and stable so it won't fall off. We have our cord hooked up. Then once that's done, we see our numbers. We see the O2, we see the partial pressure of oxygen, and we see our carbon dioxide. As long as they are reading these numbers, you're in good shape. If you don't see these numbers, change to this and then hit OK. Once we hit OK, then we really can take a break for a second. The machine will take a little bit of time. It's going to do its own sampling. And it's going to say, you can see it, do not breathe near the calibration valve. Essentially, you don't want to, you try to step away from the machine at this point. Too much, if you're talking or there's too much going on near it, it can read your breaths as part of the natural air. It can cause a little bit of error or variability in the sampling rate. So at this point, we are just allowing the computer to kind of do its own thing. Eventually, we will start to see a black line coming across the top of the screen. It'll come right around here. That'll start in just a few seconds. There it goes. When that black line gets all the way across, the sampling will be complete. We don't mess with the computer at this point. The software does its own thing. Once it gets all the way across, we can move forward. So at this point, we just wait. Again, remember, it takes about 10 to 15 minutes to actually calibrate the equipment from start to finish. So if you're taking that into account with the fact it takes 30 minutes for the unit to actually warm up, you need to make sure you give yourself adequate time. Now we see our calibration results. All of the black numbers mean everything is correct. You will likely see this number in red. If it says 273 and it's in red, that is okay. If you see all of that and everything else is in black, we hit okay. If for some reason you see a lot of red numbers all over the screen, that means something wasn't calibrated right. You should shut everything down and start again. So here, everything's good. We hit okay. And then the first thing we need to do at this point before we move on is we need to reconnect the sampling line back to the flow meter. So we just pull our line out of here. We put it right back into our flow meter just like that, making sure that everything is connected again properly. We can just set that to the side. good to go from there. And then we go back to our computer. So we've done the electronic portion of the calibration, now we need to do the manual portion. Calibration, and now this time we're going to turbine. We click turbine, this screen pops up, but before we do anything else, we move over to this side of the lab and we find our 3-liter syringe, see, just like this. Not the kind that you get a needle with, but to calibrate the machine. We need to get our connector tube right here, and then we'll grab our flow meter. So this part can be a little bit tricky, it can take a little bit of practice. The first thing we need to do is we need to kind of manually connect everything together. This has 2 sized ends, one large, one small. The larger end will go into the syringe. The smaller end will go into the end of the flow meter. And notice we have 2 ends. We have this part here, and then we have the one that looks like it has the kind of the fan on the end. We are putting it in the end without the fan, and then we use one hand to kind of stabilize it in place. And make sure that you're not leaning forward. This can roll right off for you. We don't want, if this hits the ground, it can break very easily. You make sure that we have everything nice and stable. We stabilize everything here, and then we go to our computer and we hit OK. When we hit OK, we'll see this screen pop up. And so now we are going to calibrate manually the rest of the equipment. What we're looking for is the gain. So number 1, we're going to get situated, and then we're going to use the syringe like so. We want nice, smooth strokes, because if we look at the computer screen, on the right-hand side, you'll see the gain, 1035, 1040. And what we're doing is we're trying to make sure that every time we're getting as close as possible to that number. So if you watch the syringe here, you can see that every time I'm trying to stay nice and controlled, trying to keep the numbers as close as possible. After about 8 to 10 strokes, if you've kept consistent, if you've kept within the ranges, then it will automatically move forward. So at this point, you just keep pumping, nice and controlled, until we have, numbers are all pretty close here, maybe 1 or 2 more and we should be okay. There we go. Okay, good. After a while, if your numbers aren't close, it won't move forward to the next screen. It will move forward automatically when you've been consistent enough for the calibration to take place. And you can see we have all black numbers, nothing red, everything's acceptable. We're good to go. If you see a lot of red numbers here, that means you were really off. It does take a little bit of practice when you're using a syringe. So we see here we have all black, that's okay. We hit OK, and now technically we have finished the calibration process. However, the last step that has to be done is we have to turn off the gas we turned on in the beginning. So we go back to our tank, we get our tool. First thing we do again, we turn off our little silver knob. Now we're turning clockwise about a quarter turn, and you'll see it'll get snug on its own. You don't have to really wrench it, just get it tight enough. Same thing here, we turn it counterclockwise. We just want it to be tight, not super snug. We put our tool again back right where it needs to be, and we are done with the calibration process. If you have any questions or you run into an issue where you're having trouble calibrating, step number 1 is to restart everything and just try again. If you're still having a lot of issues, find one of your professors, one of the GAs, one of your instructors, and they can help you. Everyone have a great day. Thanks for watching.